ignore you. Then they laugh at you. Then they fight you. Then you win. Mahatma Gandhi. Welcome to the Guyana Dialogue. I'm your hostess, Shamisa Ali. Good evening to everyone joining us on Facebook and YouTube. Happy Indian Arrival Day to everyone. Tonight we will have an open discussion on tourism, trade, and industry. The Guyana Dialogue is being sponsored by Coordinating Council of Guyanese based in the US, UK, Canada, Guyana, and the Caribbean. Funding support is by well-known philanthropist Dave Narayan from Dave West Indian Imports. Please welcome my moderator for tonight, Dr. Tara Singh.
Good evening, Shamisa. Good evening to our listeners.
Good evening. Our panelist tonight is Dr. Ganga Ramdas and Professor Munira.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Gentlemen,
Hello.
Dr. Tara, go ahead.
Thank you very much. To our viewers, I want to apologize. We had Minister Oneidge Walrond supposed to be here. I don't know if she's running late, but in the meantime, we'll continue this program on tourism, industry, and commerce. And with me, we have Dr. Ganga Ramdas, who is a former head of the Department of Economics and International Relations at Lincoln University, Pennsylvania, and Professor Maniram Budu, who has been a professor of civil engineering at Arizona State University. Plus, he was also the head of the Department of Civil Engineering Department at the University of Guyana. And of course, we have our host, Shamiz Ali. Now, I'm going to begin by just making a few remarks because I think what is remarkable is the growth rate of Guyana, especially between 2020 and 2022. In 2020, the GDP of Guyana was just about $7.3 billion, and the growth rate was 5.8%. In 2021, the GDP grew by roughly about $1.5 billion more, which is $8.77 billion, and a growth rate of 14.5%. In 2022, the GDP almost doubled to $14.23 billion with a growth rate, a phenomenal growth rate of 56%, probably one of the highest, if not the highest in the world. In 2023, the World Bank projects that the GDP will be around 20 billion. All these are US dollars, 20 billion, with a growth rate of about 34%. Now, the IMF project a higher growth rate, I think about 56%, but we'll stick to the World Bank for the time being. Now, this is just giving a rough idea of what the oil sector has done to boost the economy of Guyana. I also, people argue that growth, the figures I just quoted are growth is not development. But if you look at the Human Development Index as well, it has increased substantially over the last couple of years in terms of better education, high life expectancy, nutritional levels, etc. So growth is a necessary precondition of development as well. They go hand in hand. There's a symbiotic relationship between the two, even though growth is not necessarily development, but development, growth is a prerequisite for development. Now, coming this in general context, I want to put because of the dynamic nature of the Guyanese economy now, and because of the focus on various sectoral areas, not only in oil, but in the traditional sector, the government has put a lot of emphasis on tourism and other things which we will talk about, trade, etc. Now, tourism sector in 2013, 2014, over 300,000 tourists went to Guyana. But in 2018, that amount, 2019, that amount dropped because of COVID. Now it's being picked up back again to the extent that in May, from January to May in 2021, those 5 months, it was 48,000. So if you extrapolate for the rest, continue the same rate, the rest of it might just be around 100,000 tourists. Now in 2022, from January to May, that figure increased to about 106,000. So again, if you extrapolate, that would be about 212,000 for the year. Now in 2023, that is expected to reach back the pre-pandemic level, about 300,000. And the goal now for 2025 is to take it to 500,000 tourists per annum. Now, that being said, I now pass on to Dr. Ganga Ramdas to comment on the role of tourism in the economic and social development of Guyana.
Good evening, all my listeners, and good evening, my fellow moderators and staff here. I just would like to say that the tourism sector offers vast opportunities for economic development, personal development, and other accumulation of wealth. You just have to do the right things. There are opportunities in boats, vehicles, bus, bed and breakfast, and of course, becoming a landlord within the economy. And this is across the entire spectrum of activities in Guyana. Everywhere in Guyana, you can develop tourism. You just have to package it correctly. So, tourism can be an instrument of rural development. If you combine it with cricket, you have a vast set of opportunities waiting there. Now, in terms of getting on board, you need to write proposals. You can write grant proposals and then look for sponsors. We have done that successfully in the United States, getting sponsors from government sectors and getting sponsors from the private sectors. I've personally wrote proposals to get enough grants to run summer programs. This can be done in Guyana, and we can set up a process whereby if you have an idea, you can write a grant proposal, look for sponsors both in government and the private sector. And I think the private sector is ready to do this right now for Guyanese because it be local development. So we have tourism, entrepreneurship, grantsmanship, transportation, and of course, the biggie is sponsorship to develop river cruises. If we develop our packages correctly, we would have high values that we can offer to those in North America, in England, in Europe, and so forth. So, riverboat cruises would be the big ticket for this sector, and it would complement the high economic growth that Dr. Tara Singh mentioned. So, with those, I would just leave it to the audience outside to evaluate these ideas and take action. Because if you do, you can enhance your own position and wealth situation, and it's open to anyone. Okay, thank
Okay.
you, Dr. Tara.
Yes, thank you very much. I just need a clarification. To whom should these proposals be directed? You have the Guyana Tourist Authority. Would you say the proposals should be sent to them?
Not necessarily. It's a bi-level thing. It depends on the activity you want to promote. If it's transportation, of course, it will involve the government sector perhaps more so. Uh, and the private sector is rich with sponsorship. Even our own program has been sponsored by Dave, the generosity of our
But
of Dave.
but
But we
the Guyana Tourism Authority is the lead agency for tourist development in Guyana, and they will liaison with the various government ministries, private sector agencies, etc. They are like a coordinating body.
yes, I agree, but that can itself be restraining your ideas, your entrepreneurship ideas. You want to be able to develop, say, okay, I want to develop this package to take people from the airport all the way to, let's say, Kaichur Falls. That's an easy one. So they will stay at a hotel. They can stay at bed and breakfast. It depends on the customer and their preference for housing and accommodation. And
Um,
yeah,
okay, what role would you say the Go Invest has to play in this?
Go Invest should be mobilizing finances in a big budget. And when they have that, they will announce it to the population, to the Guyanese public, and invite uh, partnership between the private sector and the government sector. When they do that, those funds or seed capital that they have could be multiplied 10 times over, let's say, the next 5 years. But they need to get some amount of seed capital to offer as incentives to the young entrepreneurs in the country.
Okay, thank you. Over now to Professor Boudou for your introductory remarks,
Yeah. Hi,
comments.
Tara. Yeah, I want to make a correction first. I'm not associated with the University, Arizona State University. I am associated with the University of Arizona.
Arizona, okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Um, uh, Dr. Ramdas actually talked about various vehicles in which you can get involved in the tourism industry in Guyana. But I think there are major challenges for any tourism in Guyana. And if you look what Guyana is doing, they are trying to emphasize sustainable ecotourism, which is a very marketable tourism sector. And I think that for Guyana, there's a lot of challenges that has to be overcome. I have had the opportunity to work in the interior of Guyana in the Upper Mazuruni area for several months on the Tibuco hydroelectric project many years ago. And I was able to see the exquisite beauty of Guyana, right? But to reach those areas is very difficult. In most cases, they are inaccessible. So one of the major challenges is to get the infrastructure to these areas, right? We have inadequate air, road, and marine connectivity to the various possible ecotourism destinations. And this is a major challenge for growth in the marketplace. Furthermore, this market needs quality accommodation, quality and hygienic restaurants and food outlets. There are also issues connected with insufficient availability of certified and trained tourist guides. Now, this is very important in this area, right? Because you have to have very good knowledge about the ecosystem. What are the challenges and how you're overcoming their challenges? For example, if you are using land-based vehicles, and if so, are they electric vehicles, right? Those are very important things because people want to know that you are also protecting an environment in there. Now, this area, this market is growing tremendously. For example, the current market is about 210 billion US dollars, and it's projected to grow by 15%. In around 2030, it will be up to $665 billion. That's a lot of money, right? Now, how Guyana can get into this, right? And what is its target market? Now, it's actually defined that already. That's ecotourism. But there are a lot of competitors in this area. For example, there are Iceland, Nepal, Switzerland, Kenya, And in our backyard is Costa Rica, right? Now, if you look at the website, what Guyana is promoting, Kaicho Falls, bird watching, and so on, right? Those are good. But then how are we going to compete with these other places? Well, well-established infrastructure and other tourist attraction for these types of ecotourism. So I think that there's a lot of challenges, and it's not simply put in money there, right? Then all of these areas are accessible by cruise, right? All the various types of tourism. And if you look at this area, recently I was in Israel and Jordan, right? And I see how those areas have their tourism. And one thing I did there is called glamping. I don't know if you heard about that. If you guys heard about it, glamping is actually just high scale camping, but it's a major sector now in ecotourism, right? And Guyana has a lot of capabilities in this area. There's also what is called Swiss sustainability, Swiss sustainable, right? So they're looking at particular areas of sustainability that this country offers, right? And one of those is being promoted is Swiss sustainable, right? So you have to choose your sector, right, and develop your market in that area, right? And it's very costly, right? There are a lot of big players in this market, and I need to get involved with those big players. I think just small tourist attractions is not going to cut it if you really want to get into this industry. So that's my open comments.
Yeah, thank you very much. Also, yeah, I'm glad you mentioned the word ecotourism. That is what the government is emphasizing. There are many resorts that were created in Guyana recently, where people can go to, like in the Essequibo, they have the splashmans, etc. But those are not, as you rightly said, they may be limited. But when the new road from Linden to Rupununi, Letem, will be burst open, hundreds and thousands of acres of land, pristine forests, etc. And with so many numerous waterfalls, people only know about Kaicho, but there are many other beautiful waterfalls, very big, that could be big, huge tourist attraction. That road will open up tourism in a big way, where you can now travel from Georgetown to Letem, busing through the interior. You can stop at various sites, and they can have rest house, etc. So that, and right now I know the government is working on several roads in the interior to make them passable. So that will come on board. I think they understand the necessity for have infrastructure, not only roads, but potable water. The goal of the government is by 2025, I believe, is to get at least 90% potable water to the interior areas. So with all these development, those are necessary prerequisites to set up a good ecosystem in tourism. Now the interior, as I said, I've gone to like the St. Francis Mission. I think they changed the name now to Maracaibo, and at certain time the river there has become so shallow with white sand. It's such a beauty, and the water is very cool, and so there are lots of scope for that. But as I said, as you rightly said, the infrastructure has to be in place. But I think the government is addressing it. And in terms of tourism to the coastal areas, as you know, there are several hotels that are being built, and the government has negotiated an arrangement with Barbados where they will train the hospitality industry people down there, and they can come back and provide quality service, because you got to cater for international, a lot of tourists coming in, plus workers from related to the oil industry, etc. Now, Dr. Ganga, your further comment on this?
Yes,
in
I
view-
agree with Dr. Budu, in terms of the infrastructural needs, and that's a wide challenge, both in terms of moving from point A to point B, and the landings there, and then at the site, you need safe infrastructure for sightseeing, right? Especially close to the waterfalls and so on. So those things I agree with. What I'm emphasizing tonight is new opportunities for entrepreneurs, writing of grant proposals, and also go for the big comparative advantage that we have in water transportation. Riverboat cruises could be very big. It could employ a substantial number of Guyanese. We've had this experience with the big boats, Freedom Hoop to Georgetown, or from Bartica to Georgetown, and so on. Those experiences are latent. If we develop, let's say, write a grant proposal, get two or three sponsors or one other sponsor, write it to India, the manufacturers of boats, and we could then take it to another level, take the tourism industry and develop our own in-house or local riverboat cruises. The riverboat cruise itself is a pleasurable experience because you would have thrill and sightseeing in one package together with the hospitality that you just mentioned there at the various landing points. So that could be very lucrative and engaging. I would recommend that listening to this program to start thinking big. Think big in terms of riverboat cruises, and then we can avoid some of the traffic situation. We just move from the airport to the main point, and then we can go along the rivers and then back to the airport.
Okay, Dr. Budu, any follow-up on that?
Yes, I think apart from river cruise, I mean, again, you have to create your own segment, right, of this market. If you look at the Europe, for example, the Rhine River cruises, right, and how those things are developed, and they've been developed for a number of years, right? You can't compete with those. You have to develop your own segment of that, right? And that is also a major challenge. I think another important aspect of this, for a tourist point of view, is security, right? Apart from accessibility, you know, most tourists want to know they're going to go to a secure place. And for some reason, if you go to the U.S. State Department, they recommend that U.S. citizens reconsider travel to Guyana due to crime. Now, if you go to Costa Rica, which I think is a good example for competition in regards to the ecotourism, they said increased caution in Costa Rica due to crime, right? So this is a very important, and how Guyana changes this is an important. It has an important influence on their tourist capabilities and future growth. So Tara, I know you are very versed in criminology and other areas of social science and political science. So maybe you can address some of the issues that the government is doing in this regard.
No, well, crime is a very important, it will affect the level of tourism. The Attorney General and the Prime Minister were recently in Trinidad at a conference where they focus on that. And they're talking about collaboration within the region, etc. Crime is not only a problem in Ghana, it's throughout the Caribbean and Latin America, and other including America. So the question is, how do you control that? Right now, the official figures given out by the government of Guyana is that the crime rate is lower than the previous year, but that is not really satisfactory. One crime can have so much an impact on the community as 10 crimes. So to use just quantitative measurement is insufficient. You got to look at the quality, the impact that a particular crime will have on the community. But we know that that is an important integral part of promoting tourism. Security is very important. Now, the government has touted the cricket as a major tourist attraction, and indeed, they attracted thousands of people last year in the cricket competition in Guyana. They are having it again this year in Guyana, and I know many people I know personally are going down for that. There's a huge tourist attraction, cricket. Whether they will transfer this to other sports like basketball, football is now developing in Guyana, and they got the sports, even lawn tennis is taking a grip now. But for the moment now, cricket is attracting a huge amount. But do any of you regard the cricket tourism as part of the ecotourism package, or is it different? Dr. Ganga?
In my opinion, that's a sports, right? And you can market anything, right? Is how you do it, right? If, for example, you have things around, say, the stadium that they're playing cricket, right? Certain even restaurants can say that they are tropical restaurants, and they can promote the ecotourism within the restaurant itself, and actually have their architecture done in such a way as to give that promotion. Those add value, right? So it depends on how you market it and what vision you have for all of these, with the focus being on ecotourism, and that's what I think Guyana is trying to do. So they need to look at even this cricket, right, and try to push it in that area, and that will cause the market to grow and start for Guyana to get a reasonable market size in that area. Because as I said, it's looking at $660 odd billion in about 2030.
Dr. Ganga?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea to link to sports.
Mhm.
Cricket would be, let's say, two legs of the sports industry. If you also increase the fervor and enthusiasm in the rural areas, I remember, all of us remember that, living through various periods of high cricket intensity and enthusiasm. You look forward to the Test cricket series. You also look forward to the local cricket matches. I remember my classmate score at Providence School. He was in the primary school. We were there. He scored a helmet trick. That's four wickets in a row, and that enthusiasm never left me and my colleagues. So if we have a rural base like the old cricket grounds that we had, and we started the enthusiasm from the rural areas, it would join and link up to the regional Caribbean CPL cricket experience that we're trying to promote. We need to put legs for local cricket, regional cricket, and of course the continuing sport itself would evolve, and so tourism could then have a strong leg to stand on through cricket or any other sport. But we need to develop that. We need to develop it so that the fans and the fan base are active year round, and that would lead to sustainability of both cricket and tourism.
Okay, thank you.
You know, Tara,
Oh, go ahead.
another issue here, for example, one of the things that is necessary in cricket in Guyana with people coming from abroad is transportation, right? Here again, you can promote, say, electric vehicles, right? And again, you can market that as a trend in what in your the activities that you want to do with regards to ecotourism, sustainability.
Okay. I haven't gone into the tourism authority website, but do any of you know if they have a strategic plan for tourism development, a 5 year or 10 year strategic plan?
I haven't seen any. I went to the site a couple of days ago, and I've seen a lot of information are quite old, and this is typical of most of the government websites. I've made this comment several times before of several of the ministers, right? You see a lot of the data is 2015 or even older information. Much of the information there, I said, is old.
Um,
And although I know that they're emphasizing social media is just like a gossip column in a newspaper, whereas the website actually provide the whole newspaper.
but the vision should be captured in the strategic plan. And
Right. And that should
okay,
be there. That
yeah,
should be on a website. People can see
yeah.
what the plans are. And then they can get involved in the kinds of things that Dr. Ramdas was talking about. If
Okay,
you're a small businessman
all
and you
right.
want to get involved in,
Let's
say,
shift.
starting a rowboat
Thank you. Let's
crew.
shift to the other area of trade. Um, Before I pass you on to Dr. Ganga, I have some figures here on trade. In 2019, when the first oil was pumped or produced in December 2019, for that year, our exports was 1.38 billion US dollars, and our imports was 2.4 billion. We were importing more than we were exporting. Now in 2021, 2 years afterwards, our export jumped to $4.35 billion, and our imports jumped to 4.36 billion, almost same. So the import bill equated to the export bill in 2021. Now, that for the export between 2019 and 2021, that was a 2.97 billion increase. And for the imports, it's a $1.965 billion increase within the 2 years. Now, we can say, now, here is where Dr. Ganga expertise come in. Can you explain why the jump in exports between 2019 to 2021 and the jump in imports too? Was it due only to the oil investment or other investments or other expansion of production?
I believe it's the other expansion of production because oil came on stream December of 2019, and then in 2020 we had oil exports, and then that snowball that increased in 2021 until today. So it's the other crops like fish, especially shrimps. I can't say much about dairy. We didn't have much there. We had a decline in sugar, but it just kept alive, and probably forestry products. That's what's at stake. Then we had the minerals. We had gold and diamond that
Mhm.
kept us going. Uh, those are the main drivers: gold, diamond, and then oil came along. But we did have a viable shrimp industry. That's something should not slip through our fingers. It should not slip through the net. I read in the Philadelphia newspapers that the hotels in Philadelphia, they value Guyana Demerara shrimp very highly. It's among the prize type of shrimp in of all the shrimps that they import. So shrimp, and then of course we have the ethnic market for catfish, but we have to do it right. We have to make sure it passes the Department of Agriculture in the United States, so that the trade continues to flourish. Gilbacker is one of the tastiest one in the local New York market, New York, and we should cultivate it and satisfy all of the Department of Agricultural requirements, even if we have to send people for training, that they would know how to tackle that. In the past, uh, I had a friend from Trinidad. We shipped and exported fish and shrimps to the local market in New York. So those are the areas that were there. We can diversify and get into dairy, milk, milk products, chocolate. Chocolate is waiting to be developed. So I think it's the other crops, especially gold, diamond, and then later the oil industry came on board.
What
So there
about,
is uh,
sorry to, what about rice?
of course, that's a mainstay. I forgot to mention that there.
Mhm.
Of course, rice is our main product, but the regional taste for Guyana's rice had been mixed. We need to make sure we cultivate that market and put the packaging correctly, and also pay attention to the taste factor. Parboiled versus white rice, and with today's health standards, I think we stand a good chance with parboiled and brown rice. So
Mhm.
that's something that has been handled uh, okay to a certain point, but there were still complaints from certain places in the Caribbean. We
Mhm.
can correct that. And
Yeah.
with the fervor for regional development, I think the population will be more open to consume Guyana's rice.
Mhm. Okay, talking about milk, there was a plant established at Unbawak on the west coast of Berbice. Now, the owner says that he got delay for the equipment to be installed for the milk processing, but so far he's producing paneer in the factory. Um, I don't know when the equipment will come, but I think that DDL will be having a factory installed somewhere along the highway, the Suicide Highway. So we don't know when that will come on stream, but they announced that not too long ago. They're committed to that project as part of their diversification process. But I'm glad you mentioned about the shrimps and the people in the Philadelphia hotel like it. Guyana shrimps and fish are actually best in the world. And what I was told is that Gilbaca can come into the United States legally because they meet the requirements, but Gilbaca cannot come here as yet from Guyana because the U.S. ambassador said the ball is in Guyana's court. They got to finish some paperwork, and what I testing, I don't know, but hopefully that will happen very soon. Um, Professor Budu, your comments?
Yeah, well, Tara, I've been studying this trade area, I must confess. Um, but I think there are few countries in the world who could say that the import and the export are just nearly the same, right? So that's probably Ghana is probably in a unique situation.
Yeah, that happened in 2021.
Yes, but um, with going back to the main topic of our discussion here is on tourism, and I think again here is where the market, right, and the strategy has to be aligned, and you can do that in all the things that Professor Ramdas talked about. For example, fishing, sustainable fishing. That's a big thing, right? sustainable agriculture in the rice industry. All those, right, add to your tourism market, right? Those are your selling points, right? Apart from the quality itself, right, is how you harvest these things and become important. And as I always said in this area, market, 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 right? So that's my comments.
The manganese is playing a very important part in generating revenue, jobs, as well as export. Now, the Minister of Natural Resources says that they got reason to believe that there may be good deposits of lithium.
Mhm.
So they are inviting prospector investors to come and invest in that area or to explore to see whether they can copy any commercial quantity of lithium. They have another mineral called mica, which Guyana has, but it has to be determined whether this is in commercial quantities or not. So Guyana still has a lot of potentially rich mineral resources that got to be exploited. In terms of forestry, the government set up a revolving fund together with private sector, I think with a bank, where small loggers now can go and borrow money at very concessionary rate. Previously, they were denied this access, and so now small loggers will have access to money. They can pursue their trade without any kind of major handicap, and they are expected to play a great role in log production and value added as well. Rather than exporting the timber, you convert it, and probably Dr. Ganga can talk about this value added for forestry products.
Well, the forestry products, there is a little conflict there because you want to keep the trees standing and alive. That's the first thing. But we have some hardwood species that could be utilized locally for furniture walls. You have Wamara, you have Green Heart, of course, you have Purple Heart. Those are rare species. We have to make sure we manage the stocks correctly. Now, if you put chainsaws in the hands of many small loggers, you don't know what damage or collateral damage they could put in the forested areas. We have to manage it properly. So, not just providing the finance, but provide management guidance, tree replanting. These are all important aspects of the forestry management. So their activities must come under the umbrella of sensible forestry management. We shouldn't leave it to their discretion, So we have the logger, they cut the log and then they don't have a Big Mac truck to move it, and they have to do like Huckleberry Finn and just float the logs down the river and hope to catch a sawmill. That's not the way to do that. It has to be well planned and structured so that we adhere to the sustainable principles of forestry development. We need to do that. So
Uh,
that's my comment on the small loggers. You mentioned
just,
manganese. I have a separate
just,
comment.
just before we leave it, are you saying or implying that they're not doing the forestry in a sustainable manner? Are you implying that?
The, I don't have data to say whether it's sustainable or not, but the mere fact that you're going to open it to many, many small loggers, it seems like you need to mobilize them and have a plan of action and know what they're going to do with the output. You can't just leave it to chance.
Well, they may very well have that plan, which you and I are not aware of, because each one of these loggers have to be licensed, and I when I visited, I saw the logs. They got to get tag them off, and you got to be a certified, and they have these we call it forest rangers, got to visit and make sure you comply with the rules, etc. So maybe there's something we can explore in greater detail.
Well, the danger, we have to look. I'm not saying it's happening, but clear cutting of forested areas should be outlawed. It should be selective harvesting, and they have to tag those trees that would be cut, so you minimize on collateral damages in the forested area.
They
We
do,
just can't leave it to their discretion.
and they also have a reforestation program where they replant trees as well. Okay, let me just before come back to the other industry, bauxite. Professor Buru, I know you're an engineer. The last time he had the Minister of Natural Resources, he said they're thinking of considering the re-establishment of a alumina plant at Linden. So do you think this is feasible or it's practicable? Because, they had it once and then they got rid of it. Now they're thinking of reintroducing it again as part of their value-added product scenario.
Well, my opinion has always been that whatever resources you have, you must produce the finished product, right? For example, if you have bauxite ore, you must produce aluminum. If you have gold, you must produce jewelry and other things, right? And that's what you market, right? Now, regards to the plant itself, right? I think that has always been something we want to do since Jay Jagan was in power, right? What was the difficulty? The generation of energy, right? Now, we always have that capacity to generate that energy. That'll come hydroelectric power. And when I work on the Tibuku hydroelectric power in Upper Mazruni during the Borneo regime, that was one of the reasons for investigating that power source. And we have hydroelectric power in abundance, apart from solar and energy. But we have underutilized. In South America, we are the most underutilized country of hydropower, right? And we have a lot of them. So if we can develop our hydropower capacity, right, we can able to have a plan.
Yeah, are you supporting the Amalia Falls
Yes,
hydro?
I did write an article supporting that in
Okay.
right? And I've compared that with regards to solar power, right, and wind energy. And I think that the solar, I think the major problem is battery. It's a cheap source, but at the moment, there's a lot of speculation on the battery cost. It's going to come down soon, but all that is in research labs, right? And we don't know how long it will take to come on board to really make it cheaper for store these energy. But hydropower provides a lot of advantage. It's the only source of power that if you want it now, you can generate it. There's no other source that can produce that now, even in nuclear power, right?
So
you have that opinion. You have plus a
so
lot of other things that come with hydropower.
you support the alumina plant idea?
Yes, I support their plan. Let me make a comment also on the forestry that Dr. Ramdas was talking about. When I was the head of the department at UG, I did some research on timber, right? And I strongly recommend the use of these non-populous species. For example, green harvest opera. And I think green harvest is such a strong wood. And what we use it for, we should never use it for. There are silver valley, mana valley, and all these things, right? Which are better for house building, right? That can be, they need to be treated. Technology is there. Technology is cheap. So we can utilize those species, right? For most of our building activities. And by the way, there are places who talk a lot about sustainability and climate changes. You know what their major building product now and the growth is in timber. You look at Denmark, Sweden, and so on. Their house building is all in wood, and they are increasing. But what you need to have, as we pointed out earlier, is sustainable forest management. It's not that you're going to cut down all these trees, right? You have to sustainable manage it, right? And we have that capacity. Now, what we are using is a lot of concrete. We don't have cement, right? It's very difficult to find stone and sand these days, right? So that's very costly, right? Well, what the resource we have is timber. So if we were to manage that, and the technology and the management for this is already there, right? We just have to adopt those that are appropriate for our needs, right? And I think we can do very well and even export a significant amount of these what was and less popular wood to these markets in Europe.
I'd just like to make a quick comment there.
Okay.
I think right now we should be banning the exports of greenheart logs. Greenheart is such a species that it can allow us to repair all our landings at all of the river ports that we have. And we should cater to that first. There's a big risk if you use concrete because it could, depending on the quality, it could deteriorate much faster. If you look at big market back, it's in dire need of repair. It needs, I would use the green heart logs. You have to know how to work logs. Our bridges were all built with green hearts on the sugar estates all over the place. So there's a high latent hidden demand for the greenheart species all over Guyana. We shouldn't be thinking of exporting greenheart right now. We have ample sources of foreign exchange and money from oil that we should be thinking of conserving our forests and conserving our hardwood species for our own use. And that is something we must think about very strongly.
Mhm.
Repair all the landings for tourism with the greenheart logs that we do have. It's an opportunity that should not miss us, or it may cost us more in the long run.
Okay, thank you. Just before we get off, I just want the bauxite Rusal operations in Kwakwani that was closed down partly because of a union intransigence making demands that the company could not afford. And now there's a dark cloud over it. It's not certain whether that the company will return given the war in Ukraine, etc. And where Russia is, Rusal is a Russian-based company, and over 600 people were laid off because of that. I don't know if they got alternative employment. And I had asked the Minister of Natural Resources if they're thinking of giving this concession to another, if Rusal would not mine bauxite there anymore, give it to another company. What are the implications? Um, I don't think that I was given an answer, but maybe there's something. Don't you think they should consider that if Rusal can come back, why you have this rich mineral resource there and so many people livelihood depend on them, why you can't get another investor to invest? Your final
Uh,
thoughts on that?
First, let me say this. I agree with Dr. Budu in terms of alumina. That's a great idea. And
Hmm.
I want to link that to another idea which could jumpstart the bauxite industry, and that is to generate the electricity and the power by purchasing the natural gas. In Antigua, it doesn't cost them any money because of the financial arrangement they have with a US company. We need to look at that model from Antigua to see how they are able to generate their electricity in an affordable manner. That's a model that needs studying. And there's a local Guyanese CEO manager from Eccles who is running operations over in Antigua. So that's number one. The the um, the bauxite industry, my former boss when I was in Guyana, Haslin Paris, ran that industry. He might not have been the best boss, but he ran it and it worked. So we need to look for Guyanese entrepreneurs and CEOs or train them so that they can run the bauxite industry. I think there are sufficient engineers down there who can be trained to run the bauxite industry. And if we do that, we can then produce alumina and then through electrolysis produce the final metal. So that's the comment on the bauxite.
Well, we don't even need engineers. You need investors as well for the Kokwani mines. Dr. Budu?
Yeah, well, again, if we're going to have a smelter to produce aluminum, then there's no question that we need to reopen that, you see. And how are you going to be attracting investors in here is a matter the government has to be involved in, because you have to compete with China. China is the biggest producer these days. And so how you compete, I think this is one of the problems we had during the nationalization of the bauxite industry. When we nationalized it, China were producing cheaper bauxite. Although we have better grade bauxite, they were producing it cheaper on the market, right? And so how you compete with that is what we have to investigate. As again, I keep repeating, market, market, market. And if you have the market and you can corner it, then you can produce anything you want.
Well, I say that China can produce almost anything cheaper because their labor cost is very cheap. Anyhow, gentlemen, we had a
Can I
very
just
nice.
make a quick comment there? We
Yeah.
shouldn't be deterred from developing our own bauxite because we can link that to shipbuilding and other parts manufacturers as well as consumer items, pots and pans, and so forth. And so we can use the metal from that industry both in Guyana and in the Caribbean region. So we could do a regional promotion there to buy our finished product. And I
All right.
think
Yeah,
that
but
would be
yeah,
sustainable.
Uganda,
All right.
a
All
small
right.
country like Guyana is about
I will.
capacity building also,
Let's
right?
take a quick minute for your final comments,
Mhm.
Professor Budu.
Yeah, for my final comment, I will make the comment I was making just now with regards to the comment that Dr. Ramdas made. For a small country like Guyana, all right, we have to be very careful. We have to build a lot of capacity, right? And we have to, and the government seems to be doing a good job in trying to focus in certain areas that they want to develop, right? If we cast a too wide a vision, right, I think we will tend to dilute what we want to do. We have to stay focused, and as we grow, we start to develop into other areas, right? Because I want to repeat, we have to the finance we have from oil is very small. People think it's a lot of money.
Mhm.
It's just a couple of $1 billion we're going to get, right? And if you look from small city in United States, you're looking at billions of dollars in their budget, right? So we don't have a lot of money there in oil. So we have to grow these other areas such as agriculture, which the government is definitely focusing, and tourism. I understand tourism will be the number three in Guyana as far as development is concerned. So I think from what I've read, this government seems to be going in the right direction and focusing in the right things.
Thank you very much, Professor Budu. Dr. Ganga,
Mm.
Yeah,
quickly your closing.
yeah, we need to internationalize our financial sector so we can attract funds from investors overseas and especially the oil companies. They're making big money off Guyana. They can invest some of that money in the bauxite industry.
Okay, just coming back to Professor Budu, you were correct. Up to the end of March 2023, the net balance in the Natural Resource Fund, the oil money, was only $1.4 billion. Of that, 800 million has been committed for infrastructural development for the rest of this year, which will leave a balance. According to about 600 million. So it's not much money flowing from oil as yet, maybe in another 2 years. But gentlemen, I want to thank you all. And we apologize to our viewers because our featured guest, the Minister of Tourism, Industry and Commerce, unavoidably absent from tonight's program, and please accept our apology. But the panelists here were able to discuss the topic without any prior preparation, and we thank them very much for the expertise. Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night, and thank you, all viewers.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.